My honesty, my strength, my ability to connect with people.
My amazingness as a woman is my steadiness. So I used to be very much up and down all over the place. And now I feel that I have that fullness within myself and that strength. And that gives me a real good foundation to live my life.
When I really feel how beautiful I am, that almost goes out to the world. And that's what makes me amazing. And when other women do that, I feel their amazingness. And so it's just that's what we all bring as women. That when we connect to how beautiful and precious we are, the world can't help but feel it.
It was pretty extreme, the teenage years for myself and my whole family as parents and everyone. We call it the 7 years of hell.
And I understand how it feels like when you're really young, because I remember being 13 and the feelings were so intense and you just wanted this easy way of being with yourself, and you miss it from being a kid because there's this easier way of being with yourself that now you've got all this intensity in your face.
When I went to high school, I remember feeling like a bit of a dag on my first days of high school because we kind of had a little bit of a hippie-ish family in terms of the city. Up here we weren't hippie at all, but it was just a bit alternative. And I went to school, I think I remember wearing a tie-dye t-shirt and jeans or something, and I kind of got to high school and I remember looking around and going, right, I got to sort myself out.
I was so insecure and so worried about what other people thought and how, I was going to be perceived, that everything was calculated. Like, all of these teenagers hung out in Elwood on this canal. And so I went down there on the last day of high school, last day of grade 6. So I was going into high school the next year, and I dressed up in all this 70s gear and I throwed my hair right out and got my packet of Peter Stuyvesant soft pack and just kind of waited for Becca and Kyla on the bridge and lit up a cigarette and blew a smoke ring, and all the guys were like, oh, another little Baldwin. That's our last name, so we were called Baldwins. And I saw all the guys looking at me and I was like, yep, check. I did it correctly.
I was very popular and went out with older guys and did that, and I got away from all the violence and that kind of stuff, but it was very much wild times, party on, like kind of a rock and roll lifestyle. We all thought, we had it all going on, but lots of just weekend parties were every weekend. There were 2 nights of the weekend and they were debaucherous. There was lots of alcohol, lots of drugs of a wild variety.
And so drug taking for me at that time was this way to medicate. It was a way to numb that feeling of intensity and numb that feeling of anxiousness and fit in and be cool. But fit into what? Like, what did I have to do to myself to fit that mould?
It was kind of like I was this bomb, because I was holding everything together in all these ways, but then I would just explode very violently, quite frankly, whether it would be with my mum or my siblings, or if I was premenstrual, or if I hadn't had a smoke of pot.
So then I went through bringing people back in school hours to the bungalow, we used to call it. Innocent, gorgeous young people that were just trying to start high school, and just taught them how to smoke, how to be cool. It's quite sad in retrospect. Looking back, I just think they were so much cooler than I was, is what I realise now. They were so much willing to be themselves, and I was just trying to be someone that I wasn't.
True rebellion was actually the girl who I thought was boring in Year 9, who took care of herself and didn't just give herself away to the first guy that said she was beautiful, and she had this sense that she was worth loving, and she stayed with that despite the fact that she wasn't going to be the coolest girl in the year, or she didn't have the most notoriety, or, you know, and that takes courage. Like, that is true rebellion, because everything is pushing you a certain way and you're being strong enough to stand up and stay with yourself. And so that, to me, is inspiration.
So I grew up in a family of doctors. Both my parents are doctors, and they're not just doctors, they're really intelligent doctors. And I'm the eldest of 4 children. And I had this idea that I had to be the sacrificial lamb of the family, that someone had to be a doctor. So it may as well be me, and then the other kids could do what they wanted to do with their lives. So I did.
I used to be a fashion designer. I trained as a fashion designer originally. It was a 5-year degree, and it was a very high-pressured degree, because to get into the course you had to be really, really good. So there was a huge amount of competition.
I got into uni to study medicine, and I studied medicine. And the way I did it was this: we would just drink and party, drink and party, drink and party. And then at the end of the year, I would stop drinking for long enough to study enough to pass the exams. So in first year, I stopped drinking for 1 week to pass first year, and then in second year I stopped drinking for 2 weeks, and in third year I stopped drinking for 3 weeks. So it's a kooky formula, but it worked.
When I did my degree show, we had a fashion show at the end of the degree, and I basically didn't sleep for about 2 weeks, and I just kept going through the night, through the day, designing my clothes, knitting my clothes, sewing my clothes, and surviving on coffee and pills that kept you going. So you can imagine at the end of my degree show I was a wreck, and I went straight into a job. I had a job already on offer, and I went straight away and worked in that.
The culture of medicine encourages that. It encourages you to be intelligent in the sense that you can do as little as you can to get away with what you need to do, and that as long as you work and do what you have to do in work, you're encouraged to party hard. And I believe that culture is changing, and I really hope it's changing. But certainly when I was going through, we worked hard and we partied hard, and it was a very self-destructive way of life.
And there was always somebody waiting in the shadows to take your job over, so you really had to prove yourself and work very, very hard. It was also very much about how you looked. So you always had to have the latest fashion, or the fashion before it was the latest fashion. So you had to be a bit ahead of your time. I worked for a big corporation in the UK, and then I came to Australia and worked for another big corporation here as well.
So for me personally, that took me down a road of just deeper and deeper self-destruction, and I ended up alcoholic, drinking alcoholically, and ended up in rehab at the age of 28.
The industry went through a hard time and people were being made redundant, and there was a time when I was actually doing 6 people's jobs. They just gave it to me because I could do it, because I was so good at doing it. But underneath I was getting more and more sick and feeling more and more pressure, so much so that I had to actually leave the industry in the end and have a break.
With school and with uni, with sport, I got a lot of recognition, so it seemed to kind of be worth it. So I'd push myself, I'd get what I thought I wanted, I'd achieve what I thought was success, and I'd get recognition for that. The big kind of bang came for me when I became a mother, and there was no one really else around patting me on the back saying, you know, well done Sarah, you're a great mum. And I started to get, I think, more and more kind of dissatisfied and uneasy, and feeling like, well, I'm not happy here.
In my late 20s, when I had started having a family and children, I actually fully believed that the children came first, and whatever happens, the children go first and then me. And if you were to talk to me in that stage about, you know, what about yourself, I would not, no, it's got to be the kids first. Once they're okay, then you can look at me, sort of thing.
I'd literally jump out of bed and just be on as mother. And I'd be, you know, in my dressing gown till whatever time of the day, getting everyone else sorted. and feeling pretty yuck myself, but that's okay. If everyone else gets sorted, their needs get met, I'm feeling better, then I can address mine. And that all sounded good on paper, but it actually led me to be pretty much like not happy on the inside. I found with my children that I was ticking all the boxes. I really wanted them to be happy. I really wanted them to listen to themselves and trust themselves and do all these things that me as a mother I wanted for them, but I realized I wasn't actually doing that for myself. So there was this sense of I was telling them what to do, but I wasn't doing it myself. And they responded to that. There was a feeling of not being quite as connected to my children as I truly wanted to be.
And so what I have come to realise is that role modelling is powerful, the media is powerful. And so what we can do with that, if we empower ourselves with the media, is we can start talking about how it really is, and we can start making videos like this, and we can start talking to young women about what's really going on without just reacting to what's going on and getting upset and throwing our hands up and going, whoa, it's so bad now. We can start having these kind of conversations and start having the conversations that say, you know what, you're beautiful and you're worth it and you're amazing, and not be ashamed to say that. And if, you know, like, we so want that for young women, but we have to be able to say that about ourselves if we're going to hold that message.
When I started to make just simple daily choices, loving choices about what I would eat, when I would go to sleep, how I would care for my body, how I would exercise, how I would ask for help to care for the children, then life started to turn around.
I still work under pressure today, but the difference is how I cope with that and how I live with that. And I'm not perfect at it at all, but what I do is listen to my body and look after myself.
If there was a feeling in my body that I needed to rest, but there was things to do, I'd do it. I would just push through. And these days I don't do that, and because of that, my body and my health is just blossoming, really.
I don't drink alcohol anymore, and I don't smoke cigarettes, and I don't do drugs, and I don't even drink coffee. I'm just smiling all the time, always feel great, always upbeat, and just have so much fun at work. Like, the amount that I can work now as well, and fit in my kids and fit in the boys and manage everything and still have time for myself is incredible.
I'm not spending a lot of time trying to prove myself anymore, or to live up to standards that I think I should be living up to, or that other people say I should be living up to. It has to be right for me.
When I honour me, I seem to have more time, more space, and what needs to be done at the time, I feel and I do it. And I don't get worried about how things are going to be, because I know that I'll do what I feel and that will be enough.
Having discovered that, it's so different. So now when I walk on the ward, you know, I'm walking there with a sense of, hang on, I care for myself. Therefore, it's natural to care for someone else. It just comes naturally.
Everyone around me can feel it. There's something really cool about that. It doesn't just stay with me. When I really feel how beautiful I am, that almost goes out to the world.
The other thing I feel about being a woman is that, I mean, it's lovely to be in a woman's body. Like, it just actually is. I haven't always felt like this, but lately I'm feeling like how lovely it is to be in, or to have a woman's body, you know, and to nurture myself in the way that I am, and to allow myself to put on lovely cream and oil, and allow myself to have a lovely nurturing bath. And
all these little things add up to actually feeling really good and comfortable in my skin. I've just really realised how beautiful it is to give yourself that tenderness.
To me, that's one of the glorious things about being a woman. It's just allowing that and feeling that preciousness and feeling that loveliness and honouring it, and that it's not connected to somebody telling you that you look lovely, that it's connected to you actually feeling that within yourself, not for any other reason other than that you feel it because you are that. That's awesome.